Woodman web training, we're going to work on adding alarm extensions. Now for alarm extensions, we're going to focus on three main types today. There's going to be one that is a Woodman generated alarm, or if it's an integrated controller or really any type of controller, the alarm logic being over set point, under set point, whatever the alarm tends to be, that logic and the generation of saying it's an alarm is handled inside the controller. And then we're going to work on adding an alarm extension just to a point like space temperature where there is no alarm logic. And then we're going to work on a Boolean on-off for, say, a fire alarm or a sump pump alarm. So let's start off by looking at and this is on a Woodman controlled system, and it's going to be different for every manufacturer. But we feel we've come up with a pretty darn good way of doing this and having the alarms easy for customers to use. So in this case, we're looking at the existing furnace, and I have the points list pulled up here on the left. We're going to look specifically at the high space temperature alarm. So with the high space temperature alarm, that logic, alarm, high space temp, that alarm logic is being done inside of the controller. So the only thing we're looking at is an enumerated point, and this enumerated point is going to only have 4 values. The 4 values are going to be disabled, enabled, normal, and active. And we use that so that from the graphic you can just turn that alarm on or off. And then the logic, and in the background, if it's 3 degrees over set point or 3 degrees under set point, it goes into high or low space temperature alarm. So the alarm extension that would be added in this case is just an enumerated alarm extension. We're using short time delays, 30 seconds, because all the time delays are actually being done in the controller. So you can see there's no inhibit time. Inhibit time or alarm inhibit I've covered before, but that is essentially when this turns on, the alarm is disabled. We're saying we don't want this alarm to work. The alarm has been inhibited. Time delay, this is the amount of time it takes for it to go into alarm. Delay to normal, after it's returned to a normal state, how long does it take before this alarm will clear? The alarm in this case is enabled. 2 off normal times, again, all this was discussed in the past. Source name, parent.parent.parent.display name, parent1. I can't really cover this enough. Parent2, parent3. So when the alarm comes through, the alarm source name is going to be existing furnace. And then after existing furnace, it's going to say high space temp alarm. Or if it's cleared, we've gone through the time delay return to normal, we're going to get high space temp alarm has returned to normal. These alarm extensions simply are only going to go off when this has gone into an active state. So like we said before, these are the only 4 states for this. All the logic is in the controller. We can either have the alarm disabled, enabled, and when it's enabled, it's going to turn into normal or active. So those types of alarms are typically in every Woodman system. If you've integrated a new unit, that might not be there yet, but this is what would be there. Now let's go into what this is more going to be about. We're going to add a space temp alarm. And we're going to say this is for something that we have a customer that really, or you as the customer, really want to have a critical alarm on this space at, we're just going to use an arbitrary number and say 30 degrees or 32 degrees. So we're going to use an out of range alarm extension. And this is in the alarm palette. If you're in the web services or looking at it through the web, you'll have to open, it looks like a little book, but you'll click that and then you'll be able to open your palette, and you want to open the alarm palette. You're going to go to an out of range. An out of range is going to be for any kind of numeric point. So this would be a temperature or a pressure. And we're just going to drag and drop it right on space temp. I'm not going to rename it. We'll just leave it the way it is. And so this is my new out of range alarm extension. Now this again is being put on a point that doesn't have any logic behind it. This is just space temperature. So it's going to go up and down based on occupancy, unoccupied set points, occupied set points. This alarm extension doesn't know any of that. All it's looking at is just space temperature. So I'm going to give it a short time delay of just 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. There is no off normal text at this point. So the off normal, we're just going to call alarm high, and return to normal text, we're just going to say alarm high returned to normal. Now again, our source name is not going to make much sense because when this comes through on your alarm screen, the only thing you're going to see is space temp. Not real useful because you don't know where it's from. So we're going to do like we did before, parent dot parent dot parent. So with parent dot parent dot parent display name, it's going to come through and say that it's existing furnace, high alarm. Down here is really the part we're looking for. This is the off normal logarithm. And again, this isn't following anything. These are just strict high and low limits. So we want to have an emergency 100 degrees and we're going to say 35 degrees. Deadband is going to be, if it's 35 degrees, it's going to be plus or minus 1 degree. So if we put in a deadband of 1, it'll go off at 34 and reset at 36. The high limit alarm is going to be high temp. And then we'd have low temp. So these are what are going to come through on your alarm screen. And then we want to enable both low limit and high limit in this class. Since we're going to use this one as an emergency alarm, this is something I want to be paged on or have something that's a really bad thing, we're going to put it on critical. And then I'm going to save. So now we've gone and created the standard alarm that was built into this system was just 3 degrees above or 3 degrees below set point, which can be a great general purpose alarm, but for an emergency alarm, that's typically not something you want to get paged on the middle of a weekend. You'd want to be paged in the middle of the weekend because your room temperature has dropped to 40 degrees or 45 degrees. If that's the case and you're worried about something like that, then this is the type of alarm extension you could add. Create a critical class and give yourself the ability to alarm any point you want within your system. So let's do this one more time quickly on we're going to do it on fan status. And we have had customers that have emergency systems that the fan starts and it runs all the time. And if it ever turns off, that's going to be a bad thing. So we're going to pick a Boolean change of state alarm. Again, we're just going to drop it under the point we want to monitor. Now that it's under here, we're going to do just like we did before. We're going to set up our time delay. I just want to have a 5-second in, 5-second out, and that'll help us if there's some little blip that we might not see it. We want to change this to parent dot display name again so that we have some useful information. The fan turned off. Now you may want to put a lot more text in there so it makes more sense, because if you had you can imagine through the middle of the night if you got 5 or 6 different alarms, it would be pretty annoying to receive normal 3 times and not know which of the 6 alarms cleared to normal. You'd be better off to have some information in there so you know what alarm has cleared to normal. So in this case, we want to know if the fan shuts off. So we're going to take our off normal logarithm, and our alarm value is on currently. So as this is, when the fan turned on, in 5 seconds we'd receive an alarm. But that's the opposite of what we want. We want an alarm when it turns off. And I'm going to change my alarm class to critical again. So now anytime this fan shuts off, in 5 seconds I will receive a critical alarm, and we'll do another class that demonstrates how to send up paging actions and alarm services and things like that. But for right now, we have just generated and created an emergency space temp alarm and an emergency alarm if the fan status shuts off, and explained how the built-in alarms work, and that could be for integrated equipment or Woodman built equipment. So if you have any questions, please give Woodman Controls a call. I hope this has helped.